Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Friday evening, March 31, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what there has been like in your ear recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather-related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see that we have a high pressure ridge right there off the east coast of the United States that's sending a lot of easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And to the north of the northeastern Caribbean, we can see the tail end of a cold front. If we take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see all of those low-level patches of cloud moving from east to west across the main development region into the Caribbean, all courtesy of the easterly trade winds brought about by that high pressure ridge. And we can see the line of clouds right there to the north of northeastern Caribbean associated with that cold front. That's bringing some amount of scattered showers and cloudy conditions to portions of the Turks and Caicos Islands at this time. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made for Jamaica's weather for today in yesterday's video. It was stated that it would have received some morning rainfall across sections of from northern and eastern parishes, especially in the morning, then spilling into sections of central and western parishes during the afternoon. And what ended up happening? A post was made on our Twitter page at 4:30 a.m. stating, as predicted, Friday morning's Doppler radar images show rainfall affecting sections of some northern and eastern parishes. So section of St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas got some amount of rainfall in the morning hours. Then another post was made at 8:06 a.m. highlighting the visible satellite images showing some clouds coming into sections of northern Jamaica and eastern Jamaica. So the very same spots that were just mentioned to receive rainfall on the Doppler radar images were still receiving rainfall many hours later. And we even had a commenter on our Instagram page confirming that rainfall. This lady stating rain in Ayalas, St. Thomas. So that indeed confirmed the rainfall that was received across that eastern parish. During the afternoon, however, another post was made at 4:41 p.m. highlighting some clouds bringing overcast skies and rainfall to sections of western Jamaica. So portions of Hanover, Westmoreland, portions of St. Elizabeth, and we also had some amount of cloud cover across inland areas of some central parishes as well. If we take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see all of those clouds starting to dissipate as the evening progressed across much of the island, but majority of the clouds are right there across inland areas of central Jamaica as well as portions of western Jamaica. So northwestern St. Elizabeth, especially portions of Westmoreland, got in on some amount of rainfall there. And if we actually take a look at the Doppler radar images at that time, we can see the greens that represent moderate rainfall and the yellows that represent some amount of strong rainfall leaving the coast of Westmoreland during the recording hour at this time. So they indeed did receive some amount of rainfall today. And according to the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology's accumulated precipitation that we received for the past 24 hours, we also have more confirmation of where we actually had the rainfall today. So northern and eastern Jamaica, inland areas of some central parishes as well as portions of western Jamaica. So just like what we saw in the satellite images and Doppler radar images, so northwestern St. Elizabeth, especially portions of Westmoreland, that's where the rainfall was concentrated for today. Taking a look at the temperatures for tonight, we can see that we have 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston and 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay. And as usual, as the night progresses, these temperatures should be getting lower. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow by both the Euro and the GFS models, both maps are showing 1 p.m. on Saturday. and we can see that Jamaica is embedded in some slight blue shadings, some blue colors right there. And if you actually take a look at the key, the blue represent at least 1 degree Celsius below average temperatures. What are the average temperatures for the month of April? We're rising in the temperatures as the year progresses, so we're going up to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And what's the equivalent of 88 degrees Fahrenheit in degrees Celsius? If we take a look at the thermometer, that's about the equivalent of about 31 degrees Celsius. And considering that we have some slight blues tomorrow, as indicated by both the Euro and the GFS for the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we should be receiving anywhere from about 29 to 30 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see that Jamaica is still embedded in some amount of dry air, as represented by all of those yellows, gold, oranges, and reddish colors, as we can see on the key. The driest air is still right there off the coast of Africa, as indicated by all of those reds, as well as the whites within those reds. Taking a look at the actual dry air map showing the Saharan dust, we can see that all of the browns associated with the Sahara Desert are in the very same spots that we saw on the dry air map, right there off the coast of Africa. Jamaica is in the clear for 2 p.m. on Saturday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow by both the Euro and the GFS, we can see that there is some amount of purple that's starting to show up in the waters around Jamaica, maybe offshore areas, especially across the southeast. That's where we see it on both maps, and that's indicative of at least 2-meter wave heights. So fishers or marine interests that are going out to sea to the far east or south of the island, they should take the necessary precautions so that they're not that drastically affected. However, if you're gonna be in the waters immediately surrounding Jamaica, we can see that the island is being surrounded by mainly blues that represent at least 1.5 meter wave heights or less. And that's due to the fact that we'll be receiving 10 to 20 knot winds coming in from the east for tomorrow, as indicated by the green colors. On the key, we can see the greens represent 10 to 20 knot winds. We're going to be having an easterly flow of winds for tomorrow. But where does all of the air pile up? We can see that the air piles up where we have the darkest blues. That's where we would have that buildup of clouds or afternoon convection, if it actually happens during the afternoon hours. So portions of inland areas of some central and western parishes is where we have that concentration. And if we are to receive some afternoon convection causing the clouds to go up into the upper levels of the atmosphere, becoming thunder clouds or cumulonimbus clouds, the wind shear would more than likely be pushing all of that off towards the southeast, which will be favoring the south coast, bringing more rainfall or overcast skies to those spots, as indicated by the wind shear map by both the Euro and the GFS models. Taking a look at the precipitation forecast, we can see that as early as tonight, 11 p.m. tonight on Friday, we can see some blues that represent rainfall right there off the coast of St. Mary, Portland, maybe even St. Thomas getting in on some rainfall, as seen by both the Euro and the GFS, even portions of St. Anne getting in on some of that rainfall as well. Skipping ahead to about 2 a.m. Jamaica time, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS are still in agreement that we still have some more rainfall across portions of Portland and St. Thomas right there. Moving ahead to about 7 a.m. now, we still have that rainfall across portions of eastern Jamaica, and that's where it cuts off, because if we actually take a look at the rest of the maps for the rest of the day, it's not that drastic in terms of rainfall. We do see some spotty blues, some light shadings of blues across portions of central and western Jamaica, but it's not that drastic. If there's gonna be some amount of rainfall across portions of central and western Jamaica during the afternoon, more than likely it's gonna be some drizzle or dew, mainly overcast skies is what is gonna be expected tomorrow. If we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast, we see that both models are showing the amount of rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Saturday. And where do we have the consensus? The consensus or the agreement on both models seem to be right there across portions of eastern Jamaica. So we know that wherever we have the consensus, the chances of it actually happening are much higher, so portions of eastern Jamaica especially should be receiving some amount of rainfall, and that's due in part by the rainfall that's expected across those areas for tonight into the morning hours. And we're grateful for the rainfall considering that the month of April has just started, and we usually expect up to 114 millimeters of rainfall for the entire month, so it's good to start the month of April with some amount of rainfall right there. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we have a lot of cloud cover across portions of eastern Venezuela, portions of Trinidad and Tobago, just like what we stated in yesterday's videos. They might even be receiving some isolated flash flooding at this time. We can see some cloud cover right there across portions of Colombia, portions of Costa Rica, portions of the waters to the south of Hispaniola. We can see some cloud cover right there coming into sections of the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, Honduras right there. And we can see a lot of patches of clouds moving from east to west across portions of the Leeward and the Windward Islands. Taking a look at the Doppler radar images, as you know, Doppler radar images show the actual rainfall as opposed to satellite images, and we can have cloud cover over an area and not necessarily rainfall. So taking a look at the Doppler radar images from about 1:30 p.m. today, we can see that yes, portions of the Leeward Islands did indeed get in on some amount of rainfall for this afternoon into the early evening hours. So portions of Anguilla, maybe a passing shower or two, St. Martin, St. Bart's, Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe as usual, Dominica, maybe Martinique got in on some of that rainfall as well. We can see some rainfall right there across portions of the US Virgin Islands as well. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we can see a lot of rainfall right there to the north of Barbados, even heading its way into the evening hours at this time. You can see a lot of rainfall right there to the west and southwest of Barbados. So portions of St. Lucia, portions of St. Vincent getting in on some amount of rainfall. And if we actually move southward, we can see that rainfall across portions of Tobago and Trinidad as well. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see some rainfall right there across portions of western Cuba, portions of Colombia right there as well. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see that majority of the eastern Caribbean should be receiving some slightly below average temperatures for tomorrow, not to mention sections of the ABC Islands, Venezuela, portions of Costa Rica and Nicaragua. We can see that the warmest temperatures seem to be right there across portions of Hispaniola, including Dominican Republic and Haiti, Cuba, the Bahamas, portions of the southern and eastern United States, not to mention portions of Mexico right there. So that's where the above normal temperature should be expected for tomorrow. For 2 p.m. for tomorrow, for the Saharan dust, however, we can see that majority of the Saharan dust across the region should be across portions of the waters to the west of Africa. We can see some slight browns right there across portions of Brazil, not to mention portions of French Guiana, maybe even spilling into portions of Suriname as well. The rest of the Caribbean seems to be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Saturday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, as usual, the waves are highest wherever the strongest winds are. The highest waves are indicated by the purples and the reds, and we can see the highest waves across portions of the waters to the north of the northeastern Caribbean, to the east of the Caribbean, as well as to the far waters to the south of Jamaica and to the north of Colombia and Panama. And that's due to the strong winds that's expected for tomorrow. Strong winds indicated by all of the yellows that we see on the wind map right here. So anywhere from 25 to 30 knots expected to the south of Hispaniola, Jamaica, to the north of Colombia, Panama, as well as portions of the eastern Caribbean. So as expected, wherever we have the strongest winds, that's where we'd have the highest wave height. Taking a look at the precipitation forecast for tomorrow, both the Euro and the GFS smalls are showing that from now up until 10 p.m. on Saturday, this is where we're going to be having the rainfall across the waters to the north of northeastern Caribbean, which makes sense because there's a cold front right there. We can also see some rainfall still coming into sections of the Leeward Islands. So those spots that are getting that rainfall, just like what we saw on the Doppler radar images just now, still to get some amount of rainfall, but it won't be that drastic. They're only going to get up to 0.25 of an inch of rainfall at most. We can see some rainfall right there across portions of Barbados, and the waters to the west of there, St. Vincent, those very spots that we mentioned earlier. Keeping southward, Trinidad and Tobago still to receive some amount of rainfall, portions of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, portions of Costa Rica as well. And we know that we have consensus on both models, and when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. And considering that we have some reds in there across those southern areas, that indicates up to 1 inch of rainfall or more, so there might be some amount of isolated flash flooding taking place. Taking a look at the western portion of the basin where we have Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, not much in the way of rainfall is being predicted at this time. Alright, so let's take a look at the long range forecast. We can see that for the month of April, the climate forecast system is showing that we should be receiving some slightly above average rainfall across portions of the eastern and the northeastern Caribbean right there. Seems like the Greater Antilles should be getting in on some below average rainfall, considering that we see on the Keys that we have below average rainfall represented by the yellows and the oranges and the reds, and the above average rainfall in the greens up to the blues. And if we even compare it to the CANSIPS model, the CANSIPS is kind of being, showing some consensus with what the CFS is showing. More of the browns across portion of the central and western portion of the basin, and with the eastern portion of the basin having the lightest or the least amount of colors, which indicate at least average rainfall. Even the NMME is agreeing with what the CANSIPS is showing, something similar. So there might be some average, if not slightly above normal rainfall across portions of the eastern Caribbean for the month of April. But what about what the Climate Prediction Center is showing? They made a post highlighting what the first or the second 2 weeks of April should look like. We can see that we have some greens right there across portions of the Leeward Islands that represent above normal rainfall. And moving ahead to about the 12th to the 18th of April, we can see that we have some browns right there across majority of the Caribbean that indicate some amount of below average rainfall right there. So it's kind of making sense with what the models are showing. What about what the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum is showing for the month of April? We still see that the most above normal rainfall should be across portions of the eastern sections of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana, with majority of the Caribbean to receive normal rainfall. So we don't see above normal rainfall or below normal rainfall, it's just normal rainfall. If we take a look at what the EURA and the GFS models are showing for the next 10 days, however, from now up until the 10th of April, 10th day of April, we can see that by 7 a.m. on Monday, the Euro model is showing a lot of rainfall right there across portions of the southern United States. You can see a lot of rainfall right there across portions of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, majority of the Leeward Islands right there. You can see a lot of rainfall as well across portions of Colombia, western Venezuela. Let's take a look at what the GFS is showing for the same period. Something similar, but we are incorporating more of the Windward Islands as well in the rainfall right there. And keep in mind that this is for the next 10 days. It's not going to be all at once. It's going to be spread out during the next 10 days. But we might have some amount of flash flooding, especially where we have those darker shadings. We have those reds. That's where we'll have the most intense rainfall or the most accumulated rainfall in those areas. So we'll see exactly what unfolds for the next 2 weeks. Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.